Hello, hello, welcome to COCBLOK, the Coalition of Craft Beer Lovers of Kentucky. My name is Matt.
My name is Jeff.
And we got another show about talking about all kinds of awesome beer things today.
Let's talk about some beer today. What do you think?
No, I give up. No
Dude,
beer.
no more beer?
No.
This is now a show about cheese.
We're going to call it, it's COCBLOK. It's COCBLOK. Cheese lovers of Kentucky.
All the fromage you can think about what we talked about today. Swiss, Gruyere, Brie.
I love Gruyere. I love
cheddar.
That Gruyere is what they put on top of the French onion soup, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
You like that? You like that?
We're already into the whole cheese
Do you like your
talk,
cheese already prepackaged in slices?
It depends on how old I am.
That's terrible.
Yeah. If I'm 6, I love it.
Although we're adults.
Yeah, we have
some of us are.
We have some actual beer stuff to discuss today.
let's talk about beer.
Some big news with BrewDog and some probably overpriced beers.
Talk about beer rarity today.
Beer Rarity, which is Jeff shared an article not too long ago, is pretty interesting. And we've kind of dabbled about rarity versus quality before, but we'll kind of get into depth about that and some other things. Also, what you been drinking, man? What's going on around town?
Did you catch the Hoof-Hearted?
Which one? The one over at
that hit town on Friday?
Mm-mm. Which ones were they? Because we've had a few that have kind of like grazed town. The Hoof-Hearted Brewing out of Marengo.
You've seen Hoof-Hearted here before?
No, like right outside, like maybe Cincinnati and stuff like it goes everywhere except for Lexington. But Hoof-Hearted out of Marengo, Ohio, right?
Well, there were
which ones hit?
There were a couple cases that hit. One was Voltan, the Imperial Stout, in a can, and the other was Wet Wind Slippery, which is I think a newer.
I have had
IPA.
that one.
And then the big question was, okay, and also at the same time, Second Shift hit town.
Yeah, so we got distribution from 2 new breweries.
Well, that's the question. Do we have distribution from 2 new breweries? Or, and this is maybe a little bit of a hypothesis,
okay,
and only people at Dauntless can maybe clarify this for us if they are listening, which they're not. Were these leftovers from the festival?
I've heard rumors of that as well.
Because they did have these cans. I'm pretty sure I remember these cans were at the festival.
Really?
And maybe were there...
You're talking about the fest, or the Shelton Brothers
Festival. The Shelton Brothers Festival, where Hoof-Hearted and
2-3
Second Shift were. Now, the Second Shift guy did say he was thinking about coming here.
Okay.
And he didn't have... Well, maybe they did have overall, not in the session I was at, the 2 bottles that hit town from Second Shift. But for sure, those Hoof-Hearteds... I'm 81.6% sure they were
same ones.
They were being served at the festival, and I wondered if there were a couple cases left over here and there that allowed them to. And he still has the license.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how long that goes.
It's like a temporary license.
It's temporary, but it probably lasts a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that, or maybe it was for real, and they really are going to start thinking about shipping out here.
I think the whole temporary thing is a lot more likely. That makes sense. It lines up with, because at the festival, you had mentioned this last time, they were doing a lot of pours out of bottles and cans.
Right. Hoof-Hearted did have cans.
Yeah, so
all cans. I don't think they had any draft.
So that would make sense. If they had leftovers and they got a temporary distribution license, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah, sell them.
Yeah, go ahead and drop it in the rest of the market, which is...
You already bought them. Sell them.
Yeah, and I think if we got those 2 breweries in regular distribution, we would have heard something.
Well, I had heard already the rumor about that Second Shift was considering, and I heard it from Dauntless, and then I asked the guy, because, you know, one of the beautiful things about the festival is they're there. And so I just said, are you guys going to come here? That's what I've heard. And he goes, that's a strong possibility, and we're thinking about it. I never heard anything about Hoof-Hearted coming here.
But that's also a lot different than just saying, oh, we're thinking about it, and then 24 hours later, here's our beer.
Well, a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hypothetically speaking.
But if he had some bottles left over that weren't poured at the festival, he could start there. I mean, one of the bottles was rat salad, and it did have but a lot of breweries do this when they enter a market, which I think is a mistake. It had a late September bottling on it.
Okay.
For a double IPA.
Okay, for an IPA. So hoppy beers, you want to be fresh.
I mean, in a double IPA, 2 months is not terrible, to be honest. It's still...
It depends on the IPA, but
depends on the style of the double IPA. I think this one already lent, with kind of more fruitier notes to begin with, lent itself to be sold 2 months later.
Okay.
But we've seen this with some breweries in the past entering the market with IPAs that are 2, 3, 4 months old.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. So I don't know. Just don't know for sure if these are really entering the market, but not to take any chances, I just bought them.
So how were they?
They're great. I mean, well, I haven't finished them all, but
did you try them at the festival?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but there's a lot of stuff there.
When I got to the store in question that was selling them, all of the Wet Wind Slippery cans off the shelf are gone, but you could buy them out of the cooler.
Okay.
And I got a can of Voltan, and then I bought the 2 Second Shifts because they're nicely priced, and I drank the rat salad already because it was double IPA. Might as well not let that.
Is it called rat salad?
It's called rat salad.
Where'd that name?
You know, they had a beer on at the festival called, was it King of Douchery or something like that?
Really? Is that the Against the Grain collab?
No,
because that was another one that they did recently.
Second Shift and Against the Grain. No.
Oh no, I'm thinking.
You're thinking of Hoof-Hearted.
We keep going back and forth.
No, yeah. So the Hoof-Hearted was the Volton and the Wet When Slippery. Cans.
Okay, I have had Wet When Slippery. But I gave it a solid 4 out
definitely
of 5. So.
Beer people showed up and grabbed those cans quickly. Only a case of each.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds to me like they probably had some leftovers, which I guess if you're thinking about entering market,
right,
which is plausible, that would be a good way to kind of gauge interest anyway.
They sold so quickly, they're gone.
Yeah, so that would be a good gauge of interest. We know Mantry did that with their pump can.
They did 2 weird entries. First, you're right.
Yeah.
It was the pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
And then they did a tap takeover and a little bit, they did a couple little appearances like at Arcadium and Beer Trap.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, we'll see you in January.
Yeah, right? It was just kind of like
weird.
They put a toe in the water.
Delay.
And then they took it back out.
Weird, because if you're trying to get attention, why would you do it 5 months in advance or something like that?
Yeah.
You do it right when you want to enter the market.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think that's a sure thing that they are coming.
At least testing the waters, yeah. I think it's, it's kind of a slap in the face to us because it's, we see it. And this is what a lot of people have been saying. It's like, oh, they had a bunch of old crap and they just dumped it on us, which... technically speaking, is true, but I mean, if it ends up that we get second shift distro, I'm all about it. Or
I'm fine with that.
Hoof-Hearted
I'm fine
distro,
with both of them. They'd be great.
Yeah, they're great beer, and anytime we get more.
If you're in that business and you're looking for regional distribution, it depends. I mean, Second Shift, they've reached out. I think they're, if I'm not mistaken, they're in Chicago, in the Illinois area.
They're definitely in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think.
So they've reached out to a big market like that. But stay regional, man. Not everybody needs to be in Chicago, and you'll do fine in Kentucky for sure.
Well, the way craft beer is progressing, and we've kind of discussed this with Kevin, is, the growth isn't growing quite as fast. It's not expanding as fast, but it's still expanding. And it's been expanding, for years now. What, like 10 years? Something like that.
Or 1,000 years. I don't know. Since the dawn of time.
The Jurassic period.
Yeah.
And it's continuing to grow. And you see a lot of these other markets that, haven't had options. Now they're starting to get options. They're starting to flourish. And it's kind of... it seems backwards to keep wanting to inject more product into places like Chicago or like St. Louis or some of these other like metropolitan areas to where they're already super, super, super saturated. You know what I mean? Are you doing a soundbite? What was that?
I was trying to do something else, but I forgot to turn it off.
You're trying to do a soundbite, aren't you?
No, I was trying to give you some background to what you were saying since the beginning of dawn. It takes me a while. No, why is that still coming
Just
up?
give it up.
Never mind.
You're such a distraction.
That's a mess up.
You're like a 3-year-old child with ADD.
I'm not the
ADHD.
I got my degree in sound engineering. It's still going. I turned it off 3 times.
Okay. Anyways, just leave it off. So, what was I even talking about? Thanks, man.
Since the beginning of time. Man has been distributing beer to markets.
It seems a little it's like not intuitive to keep injecting into overly saturated markets when you have very clearly markets that are starting to burgeon and that are starting to increase in demand, and people want more product and are being neglected.
Well, did you see like Fatheads?
And they're mainly kind of like in the South.
You know the Fatheads story that's also a new announcement that Fatheads in 2017 will come.
You're talking about Fatheads Brewery
from Cleveland that. They did one of the weirdest distribution setups, and although now it's starting to make a little sense, when they opened another brew pub in Portland, Oregon, and you go, what the heck? You're a Cleveland brewery with a successful brew pub and some, distro in Ohio, in Indiana maybe. Are they in Indiana? I can't remember. Why do you want to go to and build another brew pub in one of the most saturated beer markets? And you're not even from there. You're an outsider. You're a carpetbagger brewer, basically. And people in Portland, I remember reading a lot. I read Beervana sometimes, which is Jeff Alworthy's blog, and they just laugh. And I think they went into the Pearl District, which it's a nice area. Yeah, there's no way they're going to succeed here. They're outsiders. Yeah, but guess what? They succeeded. Yeah, and now they just announced the opening. I knew they already had one, I think in Pittsburgh too, but they're going to open 2 more of these brew pubs
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to
Ohio, maybe in another state. I can't remember. Yeah, but they're
very saturated markets.
But
already.
they're now deciding, and also going to expand their production. And Kentucky's on the list of states they're going to distribute to. But it looks like what they're really trying to do again is they build their own little chain of brew pubs.
Yeah,
and hit certain markets with that chain.
And
I forget where the other states were.
I think in respects to that. When there's a lot of competition already, you really have to know what you're doing. And we talked about what Kevin said in 2 shows ago when he was talking about it's better to be new than it is to be good. But the caveat to that was to be great. And there's very few breweries that are great. I mean, let's face it. We have 4,000 plus breweries. A lot of them suck, honestly. Not all of them are really, bar none, exceptional. But there are a few. And I think when it comes to hops, I think Fatheads is up there, honestly. I think they're one of the better.
That's what happened in Portland, is that people really like their hoppy beers. Headhunter.
It's really hard to beat their hoppy beers. Some of the other stuff, maybe, but, there's a lot of breweries that do sours well, or they do, saisons well, or stouts well, and I think when it comes to hops, they're really good. So I think they would be considered on the great spectrum of breweries.
While you were talking, I was consulting with the interwebs, and it's the other 2 brew pubs are in Canton, Ohio, and Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, I thought you were still looking up your soundbite.
Charlotte.
I was like, come on, man.
So again, they're going to have they've had a brew pub in Portland, Oregon, and now one in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Doesn't match.
Now, Charlotte maybe, but it's like
big
right
cities.
on the cusp of Asheville.
Charlotte's farther out than it's still a few hours away.
Well, but I mean, it's like it's within driving distance to Asheville.
But it's interesting. It's an interesting model, and so obviously they're going to do a chain of pubs, a brew pubs.
Yeah,
that's their model.
Yeah,
and they've got the brand and the hoppy beers, and they do nice stuff.
Yeah,
So
well, I guess my point is that there's a lot of I think there is not tons, but there is potential in the South. And I think people are starting to come around, and you see a lot of these breweries that are doing well that originate in the South, and they're starting to expand out of the South, like Good People, Avondale. I think I like the
that's
Birmingham.
Alabama, right?
Yeah, I love that the Birmingham scene over there. They're doing some good stuff. And then you had talked about places around Atlanta, outside of in the Georgia.
Sweetwater has made big moves,
huge,
all the way up to Chicago.
Yeah,
so no longer even a southernly found beer. Yeah. They're out there.
Yeah, and they originated in these areas that people are neglecting. So I think there's demand to people.
Terrapin is in New Jersey.
Are they really?
Yeah.
So did they just get bought out?
Terrapin is owned by Miller.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
10th and Blake, Miller, Coors, same.
Was it 100% or was it like?
It used to be partial, and then they bought them all out.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so what do you
would buy me out? I'm for sale.
Well, yeah.
You can buy me for $25 million easy.
I love all the people that are like,
you can have my brand. You can have my Dr. Fabulous name. You can have my website whose domain is about to expire because I never use it anymore and I don't feel like renewing. You can have everything.
I love all the people
my old clothes.
that give so much crap about like people selling out, which is from the pure standpoint, and it's pretty crappy. But everybody's got a price.
I got a price.
I'll be the first to say I got a price. It might not be low, but
I love Lexington. University comes around tomorrow and says we'll offer you $500,000 to come here. I love you, Lexington, but see you later.
Yeah.
See you later. Yeah, I'm moving to Poughkeepsie, New York, or whatever.
Money talks, man.
Money talks. That's right. So, I got bills to pay.
If I had a successful
and beer to buy,
if I had a successful brand and it was just like too much money to pass up, take that money.
What if InBev wants to buy?
I'd start another brand.
What's it called? MattWorks.
Matt Media Works.
InBev wants to buy Matt Media Works.
Oh, I'd sell in a heartbeat. Well, it has nothing to do with beer, so I would sell in a heartbeat.
So what? But they say, listen, we want to get in on that.
Yeah.
That wedding real estate photography thing.
I don't do any weddings.
I thought you did weddings.
I hate weddings.
Well, we want to get on the real estate photography business.
I hate people.
So they're going to give you, $18.
I won't sell for less than $25.
$25.
Yeah, and they have to be new builds. I want the crispy ones.
And a brand new video recorder. Betamax.
That's a little much now. Yeah. Yeah. So, what have you been drinking?
So what were we talking about before? So, yeah, I had...
we kind of went on...
I hit those. Like a lot of people, I think I showed up on Thursday to West 6 looking for that Firkin S'more Porter.
Yeah.
Which was not on...
Okay.
On Thursday on the Firkin. That was a typo on... the
website. Is it coming up, though?
I guess that'll be this week, and so... But I don't know. No, are they open on Thanksgiving? That can't be true.
I don't know.
Most places stay closed on Thanksgiving.
We can find out.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Are you guys going to go to Alabama or
going to Tennessee?
Alaska?
My wife has. My wife's parents live on a lake in Tennessee, so we go down there as much as we can.
We live on that island that the rig drove on.
The what?
Remember one time you talked about how it was a big rig that drove on?
Oh yes, yeah. It was a big rig drive on it. I was drinking with a bunch of big riggers.
Yeah,
truck drivers.
Dump. So you're going to Tennessee? That sounds cool.
Yeah, man. That lake is beautiful, so we go down there as much as we can. The beer scene kind of sucks down there, but I I was over in Mirror Twin the other day.
Me too.
And, I ran into two guys from a place called Crafty Bastard, I believe.
Yeah, I've been to
Knoxville.
I've been to that one in Knoxville.
Yeah, very
They're
small.
Opening here.
They got like a 1.5 barrel system, I think.
Wait, are we talking about the same thing? The store?
No. This is a brewery.
Oh, a brewery called Crafty Bastard.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I was thinking about that store chain in Knoxville that's also opening here.
It's like craft. Yeah, it's like craft beer cellar. Or
so
something.
Crafty Bastard is a small brewery.
Brewery.
Oh, wait, have I been there? Yeah.
You can't not like check stuff on the internet while you're talking. You realize how distracting that is?
No, it's not.
It's so distracting. And your internet doesn't even work because you're playing your music in the background. Your YouTube channel won't stop. Yeah, Crafty Bastard. I talked to two guys from there, and I was asking them about the beer scene in Knoxville because my in-laws live like an hour away, and I hadn't checked out any breweries in Knoxville in about 2 years, and they said it's starting to blow up. There's 4 or 5 had opened in the past like 2 or 3 years.
Well, I was there. We talked about something a little bit on the show, and I was there earlier this year with my wife for a half Ironman she was running.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to think of the one I went to. I didn't go to Crafty Bastard after all. I went to something else.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and figure it out and take your time?
Maybe Fanatic? I can't remember.
Anyways.
I can't remember.
It's irrelevant.
Maybe it was Fanatic. But I actually was not impressed with downtown Knoxville. Maybe it was Fanatic.
How long ago was it?
4 months maybe, and the downtown area by the university is just dead. There's like a little plaza that has some restaurants, and then it has this store that I forget the name, but I know they're building one downtown here in Lexington. It's a chain where you can go in and drink beer and buy a beer. And then there was this brew pub around the corner from the university we went to. It may have been Fanatic. I'd have to look it up. But outside of that, man, I thought it was a pretty dead place. But you're saying no.
But did you go to any breweries?
This one brewery, this one brew pub.
Okay, he was telling me. I wrote the guy's name.
I know Blackstone is there too. Blackstone has 2.
Yeah, Blackstone's out of Nashville, though.
But they have one as well in Knoxville. They have 2.
Oh, two breweries? Because the one in Nashville, I believe, is a restaurant too, and that's their production facility.
The one in Knoxville, I don't know if they make beer there, but there is a Blackstone in there.
Okay. This guy's names were actually, one of them's name was Jeff. The other one was Aaron. And yeah, they said there was like 3 or 4 that opened in Knoxville in the past couple years. So I'm thinking if there's some places open, I'd like to swing by there when we go down to Tennessee. But that's what we're doing for Thanksgiving.
What was another place we go? No, it was in Chattanooga. I went to another one too. I didn't like it, but I just don't think. I think Nashville is the Tennessee place these days for beer.
I agree.
There's so much stuff seems to be popping up. I have a friend in Nashville who's always telling me about going here and going there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Fanatic either. I'll try to look up later.
You've got to let that go. You're like this.
But the thing is, I just want to remember where was the brew pub I went to in Knoxville that I thought was okay down by UT. But regardless, I think Nashville is far more poppin' than Knoxville.
Yeah.
But I've never been to Nashville, have you?
Yeah. You've never been to Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's kind of odd considering how much you travel. Yeah, no, Nashville is fun. I usually go down there for a concert or 2 every year or so. But yeah, we'll be going down there. I'll probably end up bringing beer from here just because the beer scene isn't quite as great over in an hour east of Knoxville. But we have a lake to hang out on. Even though it's frigid, it's going to be sucky. But I just left West 6. I usually stop in for one at West 6 before I come in here just because it's on the way. And I had the new Christmas ale. Right. From them, which they just started selling in 6-packs. And I remember last year not caring for it a lot, but I liked it.
Yeah, tis the season to be jolly.
Yeah. Well, I like...
People got their lights up already. The Christmas beers are hitting.
I know, and it's not even...
My neighbors across the street have a big sign they put up right now, and it says... Every year they put the sign up right before Thanksgiving, and it says, what does it say? He's God's gift to you.
Yeah, Santa?
I think they mean JC.
JC, I know that guy. He works over at Ethereum.
Scares us non-Christians across the street. You know? What's going on there, man? So people want their Christmas beers, and they want their Christmas, and they want it now.
Have you had the Christmas ale at West 6?
Not this year's batch. I'm not a huge fan of that heavily spiced. I skipped also on Braxton Snow Shovel I saw the other day in the store.
I had that at, it's on tap at Mirror Twin.
Yeah. How would you I'd rather have it on tap.
It's kind of thin.
See, I didn't want a 22-ounce bottle of that.
Yeah, I bought one, and I'm kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Braxton out of Northern Kentucky, their stuff seems...
Can't hit Mirror after the show, but otherwise I'd go down and try it.
Yeah. It's not bad. I would have prefer just a pour rather than a bottle because it's a little pricey.
I prefer pour over.
It's pretty good. I love winter beers. I really do. I like them when they're balanced, though. I love winter warmers. I like Christmas ales, but when they're like either too heavily spiced or like don't have enough body, and they're just kind of like blah. See, last year's I felt like it was thinner and it was maybe too spiced. Could have been one or the other that led credence to the opposite, you know. But this year's I thought was pretty good.
I used to just love the Belgian Christmas ales when they would come out every year.
Yeah.
St. Bernardus.
Yeah.
I thought that was the bomb, man.
Those are fantastic.
That was the thing, and I would get so excited for them. But I haven't tried that in a long time.
Yeah. So, well, you've been playing on your computer all day. Do you have some music queued up at least?
Oh, yeah, man. I got some great stuff here.
Hello. Welcome back to COCBLOK, the Coalition of Craft Beer Lovers of Kentucky. I'm Matt.
I'm Jeff.
And we are talking about beer. And there is a story which I want to get your opinion on this before I give you my opinion on it. BrewDog out of the Netherlands?
Netherlands? No. What are you talking about? The Scottish. They're citizens of the United Kingdom. They're Scots.
Okay, wherever.
They eat haggis.
I don't drink a lot of BrewDog, so I don't
make whiskey.
Well, they technically they might as well make whiskey.
Scots do, and they wear the skirts. The Scots, right?
Are you talking about BrewDog?
Yeah, Scots. They're Scots.
Okay, they're Scots. They're two guys named Scott.
Kentucky is a Scottish heritage state.
These guys, they make a lot of really high alcohol beers. I don't even want to say gravity. It's just really high alcohol beers.
Some of them, yeah.
Tactical Nuclear Penguin, Sink the Bismarck. They made one. I think they've only done it once. Called the End of History. 55% alcohol-ish. Very, very strong. Stupid strong. It's basically liquor. Like a distilled liquor, and they serve it in a taxidermied squirrel. And it made headlines when they released it the first time. I think it was like in 2009 or 2010. And they're re-releasing it along with the news of their new production facility in Ohio.
Right, near Columbus.
Yeah, because Ohio just lifted their ABV cap, which used to be, I think, 12? Was it 12% or 11%, something like that? So now that they lifted that, this is kind of their coming to life party for beer that BrewDog's going to do a production facility there.
100,000 square foot brewery.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's gigantic.
That's basically, we're going to send beer all over the United States.
And they're going to make this new batch of the End of History, 55% strong beer, served in a dead squirrel carcass, and it's going to cost $20,000. Now, the way they're pitching it is that you're actually buying a stake in the company, and I think they call it equity for punks for their shareholders. But basically, for $20,000, a $20,000 investment in the business, they're saying, "Oh, you get this beer."
You want me to play some of that?
But no, don't stop playing.
Because I got the equity for business right here.
Oh my god,
equity for punks. Excuse me.
Yeah, but what everybody hears that's like a craft beer nerd that maybe has been curious about it or just like intrigued by it. All they hear is this beer costs $20,000, and you can say it all you want. Oh, it's you get this beer. But the only way you can get it is if you invest $20,000. Right. They're essentially dangling something that they think is highly sought after.
Now let's say
in front of you
how many members are there in COCBLOK? 500 and something.
500 something.
So what's 500 something into 20,000, and then we could all buy a share.
Share.
Well, how much do you get for 20,000? How many shares do you get for 20,000?
I don't know. We could look it up.
You get a piece of the pie. Obviously, you're putting a $20,000 investment into the company.
You would think, but they've already gotten like tens of millions of dollars.
So what do you get for that $20,000?
I would think it'd be not. I don't think it would.
So we
be
could all split our own. We could all COCBLOK could then be. This is where we really branch out. It could become an owner.
Everybody would get,
and we could show up at the shareholders meetings and talk in fake English accents with the BrewDog. Right then, is brewing some beer.
I would do that if we all coordinated.
End of history.
Yeah, if we increase the amount of money that we put in, so that way we could put it towards costumes, and everybody had the same top hat.
Oh yeah,
and
monocle,
and the penguin tail coat, and cut off shorts.
Yeah,
and then like a bow tie.
Let's say haters back off on the back of our cut-off shorts.
Yeah.
Right then.
Or like big
Which
crosses.
one of you's got the End of History?
Too right. No spot of tea for you, love.
Like some blood pudding.
Blood pudding?
The Beatles are back.
You're ridiculous. You're a ridiculous person.
You don't want to hear this?
Huh? What is it that you're trying to play so hard?
I'm just looking here. You were talking about End of History, And, no, you're talking about equity for punks.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm James Watt.
And I'm Martin Dickey. Welcome to Planet BrewDog.
We set up in 2007 with 2 humans, 1 dog.
These guys are selling their stuff online.
The face of the UK
I never really bought their shtick
From
that
our humble
much.
origins, we've grown exponentially.
I don't think they're that funny.
Europe's largest craft brewer.
As well as making hardcore beers.
I saw them one time. They were down at they were filming a TV show of Against the Grain. And
Yeah, they have their own show.
maybe it was for their show, and they went down to Buffalo Trace.
I remember that.
Right, and just by chance, we were at Buffalo Trace that day, and there was Sam Cruz and those guys hanging out. But you know, they're big businessmen. They like to pretend like they're not. Because you know how it works in England.
I don't even think they pretend like they're not.
In England, it's not just you open a bar or pub, whatever. Pubs are tied to beers.
Yes.
So they own a lot of pubs, actually. They don't just own one little place you can go get BrewDog. They own tons of pubs all over England.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're big businessmen.
Yeah. I don't even think they try to hide the fact.
So why do they need to crowdsource this when they already have tons of investment money?
That's the question. No, so what's your opinion on this? Are they doing this because okay, do they want extra money? Do they need extra money, or are they doing this as another shtick? Because they're very popular for their shtick.
Yeah.
You know, they always have these little stupid things that they do that they try to get attention for. Like even brewing a 55% beer, which is they Eisbock it anyway, which is essentially partially freezing it and removing the ice. So by removing the frozen water, you just make it stronger.
Well, I guess it's not really a shtick. At least the source I'm looking at online says they're trying to raise $15 million crowdsourcing this way. And they already did it once before in England for a different project, and they raised $23 million that way.
But I swear they've already
done it.
Yeah, but I swear they've already gotten, I think they did, I read an article where they did multiple rounds of investing through their current investors, and they've already gotten 30 million or something like that.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
Granted, if they want 50 million, they got a long way to go, but I don't think selling a taxidermy squirrel beer is going to get them.
So did you already put your order in?
I don't know. Well, they're saying that some people
if you do
bought in already.
Just make sure your wife doesn't see the credit card receipt.
Yeah,
because that's gonna.
Well, I'm gonna write a check.
Whoa!
I hope they take check.
Why do we have a negative 28,000 in our bank account this month? You know, diapers, honey, diapers. They're really expensive now.
So what do you think their deal is here?
What I think it is, I think this whole crowdsourcing thing, when it comes to investments, particularly in the beer world, it does drive me crazy because just go to a bank and get a round of investors or think about an IPO. Why should the average consumer be constantly shelling out money for people's businesses so that they get a T-shirt or a stuffed squirrel in exchange? I know there have been some places here locally that have done this, and I'm not a huge fan of the whole crowdsource. I will, you know how I'll invest in you as a so-called crowdsourced consumer? I will go to your brewery and buy beer once a week. That's the way I'll do it. I can't write you a check
to support
for $1,000 so you can open a brewery. If I'm going to write a check, if I actually had $1,000, I would probably either donate it to a really good giveaway like that to a good cause, or I would invest it in a company that was probably going to give me better returns, frankly.
Yeah. If it works, I mean, I guess it works.
I guess. But that's the
way
we
it
have
works.
Loans.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100% there. I mean, that's why we have banks so you can create the business and then sell your product to customers. But this kind of backward mentality of trying to pre-sell the business.
You take less risk by taking money from potential customers. Yeah. And if you go under, there's no risk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
If for some weird reason they could raise $15 million from potential customers, which doesn't make that sounds way too big to me, but who knows? Yeah. My PhD is not in economics, right? It's in, I'm not sure what.
I don't even know what it's in.
And if you can so you take no risk on. Yeah. But that doesn't make sense. Opening a business is about risk, unfortunately. And why should the customers each take $1,000 or $2,000 risk on your idea?
And I understand, the concept of crowdsource funding is that you disseminate that risk, so much that it's to the individual, it's not substantial. And, I get that if somebody puts in $5 towards your Kickstarter campaign, and
$5 is fine.
Yeah, and you can't open your brewery or whatever. And obviously, there's caveats there because you don't get the money if you don't actually get the number. But there's other crowdsource funding websites like Indiegogo and stuff like that where you actually get the money regardless. If I'm out $5 or whatever, and I decided to donate to you, that's not a whole lot of risk to me. So I guess it kind of benefits other people more because you don't lose as much or whatever. But I don't necessarily like the whole. The philosophy behind it. It's kind of saying you owe me something before I've even given you anything.
I feel like panhandling.
Yeah, it kind of does. Honestly, I'm okay with it to a degree, like especially if you have a pedigree. Like you're already producing something very high quality and you want to take it to the next level. Like saying, we've done this already. Now we need to do this. And we want to continue getting your help that you've already, provided. And by giving us your help, we'll ensure that you get first dibs. I would get that because I would give on that because, I know that I want to, them to continue to grow. But yeah, the whole, the startups, I've never made a beer in my life. I need every single cent from you. Maybe if they even wanted a small portion, maybe even just for marketing purposes.
Right.
We just want to raise $1,000.
How do I know what your business plan is?
Yeah.
I'm just an average consumer. I even if you first of all, I don't even think I've ever seen them posted alongside these crowdsourced plans. But even if I did, I'm not a banker and a business person. How do I know that's a good business plan?
I've seen some campaigns where it's they've needed to raise $50,000 and they'll do a Kickstarter campaign for $1,000. Well, I understand that's not a substantial part of it. It's just for marketing purposes.
That's okay.
Everything that they're raising, they're doing it just to get word out there. I understand that, but yeah, when you rely solely 100% on the crowdsource, I just think it's a recipe for disaster. Now, I don't think that's what they're doing here. I don't think they're relying 100% on that. I think if they don't hit their goal that they're aiming for, I think they'll have other ways to get it. I think this is just another marketing ploy by them.
As far as I understand, they're already building the brewery, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think it's just so eccentric that it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of dumb. $20,000 freaking dollars for a beer. That's what it is.
That's a lot per ounce. That's more than Bourbon County.
Is it a 12-ounce bottle?
Than that new 16.9 rare that costs $80.
Oh, well, dump. No.
Whoops. Dump.
Yeah.
All right.
We've actually said a lot of prices on this one.
All right, well, let's take one more quick breather on 93.9 WLXU FM.
Hello, welcome back to COCBLOK, the Coalition of Craft Beer Lovers of Kentucky. That is a tongue twister. Seashells by the seashore. My name's Matt.
My name is...
Okay, that's Jeff. So anyways, we've been talking about beer.
I'm number one in the hood, G.
And we want to talk about one last thing. We have a little Facebook group for COCBLOK.
What is the name of that Facebook group?
Well, it's just COCBLOK. But,
is that what it's called?
Yeah. And you started a little discussion inquiring as to whether rarity equals quality.
Punchdrink.com had a little piece I saw somewhere else posted on one of the probably 17,000 beer groups I'm on Facebook.
Sure.
And it's called When Did Rarity Start to Equal Greatness in Beer? And it really takes into question the whole concept of the rare beer being the, as the title says, the great beer. And it mostly works off the history of these top beer lists. If you go to Beer, I think only Beer Advocate maybe was the focus and not Rate Beer.
It was in this one, yeah.
But they're both basically the same idea. Although Rate Beer is the one, I think it was the Westvleteren, I never say it right, instance that it was Rate Beer that drove them. And when they listed them as the number one beer in the world back in whatever it was, that suddenly brought all that attention to the Trappist brewery
beers,
in Belgium that nobody was really thinking it at that level, and suddenly there were these lines out the door for people trying to get the beer. And so when he's basically, the writer is really interesting. He goes back to, what was it, 99 I think or something, where he's looking at Victory Storm King was like one of the best beers in the world.
Yeah.
And today
it's a shelf.
Nobody thinks about it. Yeah. Nobody thinks about Storm King as the great stout anymore.
And you'll ask anybody that's had it, and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's a good beer."
It is a good beer,
but nobody will put it.
And
in fact,
the top all the list. Beers he comes out like Bell's Two Hearted or Storm King or I can't remember some of the ones that were listed that were early on top beers. Rogue Shakespeare Stout was number 11 at one time. Chimay Red, Unabrew, it's Don de Doo. Obviously Celebrator, which nobody, is a great Bach. Nobody thinks about anymore.
Yeah.
Even what was the ESB? I know Fuller's ESB was at number 14. This is back in 99 or so.
Yeah.
Or 2000 and 2001. So basically all these beers, these classic American and European beers that at one point 15, 16 years ago were rated the top beers in the world,
considered world class.
They're not on the list anymore. It's all now, and it's almost all now super duper hop water, hoppy sours and barrel aged stouts, and sometimes barley wines that make it onto these lists and become the focus of the beer enthusiast or the beer nerd's quest to just have these beers that also have really limited production anyways, and sometimes no distribution. You have to be there on the release day to get it. And if there's 300 bottles or 400 bottles or whatever it is, the odds of ever trying this are very, very slim. Except for people like you who belong to these massive groups and just meet up and chug them in St. Louis in a hotel.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought what was interesting about the article is that he does a little bit of research and actually kind of can put a timestamp on when beer started, the quality of beer started to equal rarity. And again, this is all focused around, he uses the beeradvocate.com top 250 list, which is a decent,
It's an aggregation of ratings,
exactly,
which are based on all kinds of preferences and tastes,
exactly,
and
right,
moments and time. That's the other thing, of course. It's moments in time that are getting aggregated in there. Well, even though it's not how you rate beers, it's that moment where that's a really good thing.
They use multiple. It's multiple. There's multiple facets to it. It's not just a straightforward give me a rating. It's they aggregate all the.
They're running algorithms. I know the Rate Beer one. He runs a really complex algorithm that.
What's Rate Beer?
That it's a site that only I'm a member of somehow. In Lexington, I'm the only guy in Lexington.
Only guy.
There. But I've heard him talk about the algorithm that goes in the background. So it takes style actually into consideration in the hopes that a Kolsch won't get totally shut out of a high rating.
The list,
I don't know if it'll break. I don't know in terms of the top 100 list, but at least in terms of the score out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, he actually goes through and he looks at the Beer Advocate top 250 beer list, which a lot of beer nerds kind of use that as more or less of their holy grail of what is, the best out there. And that's the kind of beers that people chase and they try to track down and trade for. Yeah, and I think, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I think he attributes like 2008, 2009, was it? What was the first year of the Dark Lord release at Three Floyds?
I thought it was 5. It was 4.
2004?
Wait, 4 or 5.
Okay, mid-2000s.
Yeah,
there was a year
4,
when Dark Lord, an Imperial Stout by Three Floyds out of Munster, Indiana, they did Dark Lord Day.
April 2004 is when they first bottled it.
And then when that beer came out, it became the first really highly sought after.
It was the number one beer.
Rare beer. I say quote unquote rare beer because they didn't distribute it. You had to go to the brewery to get it. You may not have needed a ticket back then. You probably did. I don't know.
And there wouldn't have been that many people. I don't know if that's the year that there were 500 people that showed up or whatever.
Yeah,
but
he said like the old pictures are like guys like sitting around.
I've seen the. Have you seen the video?
Not the old.
Of the first. There's a video that you can get on YouTube, and it's in I talk about this actually in my book a little bit. That it's in the tiny little part of the brew. It was so small then, and it just a bunch of guys hanging around, sharing some beers, and buying their Dark Lord allotment. Yeah, and no big deal. And now, of course,
10 years later.
How many thousands of people show up now?
It's insane. Yeah, cops over there, kind of monitoring everything. They got the bands playing on stage.
You've got 15 minutes when the tickets go on sale to break the servers before it sells out.
Yeah, they sell out immediately. You got to get in line to get your beer once you're in the festival, and then you're in line for an hour just to get the beer you've already paid for. And then they do like the raffle for the variants, which this year, you get a free variant. Either way, that year was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And then all of a sudden you started seeing all these other, brewery-only releases, these hard-to-get beers that started cracking the top 250. And once those beers started to become more mainstream, more readily available, they start to fall out. And then, he starts to notice this trend. Well, has it become our version of quality?
And the funny thing about these debates, when they happen online in a lot of places, there are people like me too who say, no, of course it's not. That any time of day in any state, you can walk into some store and find great, amazing beers on the shelf. You don't have to wait in line or chase or whatever. But then on the second hand, some of those same voices, often including my own, are still chasing and trying to find such and such that's such a great 500 bottle release beer. So while we can rationalize this and say it's not, I think FOMO, the fear of missing out, really overrides our sensibilities at times to make us just go crazy, and we have to have this thing that's now broken into whether we know it's in the list or not, although we often propel it into the list with our own hype. And some of this is self-feeding, right?
Yes.
That the more we talk about it, the more we share the photos on Facebook and Instagram when the brewery's saying, all right, get ready, this beer's about to be released, or they show it being bottled or canned, or they show the barrels, and we keep sharing those images. We're continuing the hype machine to the point that now it's not just us, but there's thousands of people who are waiting to pounce on that release.
I think there's an intrinsic quality to experiencing beer and we've talked about it in the past. I know we have. But part of, getting a good beer, or even like when you get together with your friends, you get a bottle share, someone brings a rare beer, it's the experience.
Oh, right.
It's there's a lot of different things that go into rather than just mouthful, aroma, taste and stuff like that. It's going to, like a Toppling Goliath release, having won the lottery ticket and getting to buy one of 100 bottles. Let's say it was the first year that was released, or, any other number of releases. The first time Dark Lord came out, you sit around with your friends and you get a brewery and they have a good beer. And then you know that this is like one of 200 bottles, and you're experiencing
you're experiencing something that I think we did talk about this once. If there's 200 300 bottles at that moment in time, you are experiencing something that thousands and thousands of other people will never probably get a chance to experience.
It's almost like a seventh sense.
There's only a small amount of beer to consume here. Yeah. And you're going to
get... If umami is the sixth sense, there's a seventh sense of the experience.
Seventh sense of hype experience, right?
Exactly,
that's good, that's good.
Yeah, so it's like the other one's experience, and that factors into a lot of people's score, whether they admit it or not.
I don't know, maybe neuroscientists can talk about this, but I'm sure that seventh sense of experience starts activating all kinds of neurons in your head and excitement, almost like a sexual thing too, where, blood is rushing and you're going, oh my God, I'm going to get to try this thing that I never thought I could try. And for that rush, for a lot of people, is worth the amount of money or time or effort that this Saturday, I think even in Asheville, they're going to be camped out at Wicked Weed at 7 a.m. for, a 500 bottle release of something. I forget now what beer that was. And we can do it every Saturday. They could put out 500 bottles of something, and more people are going to show up. They need to show up,
and that's the drive, and I think that's what pushes it for other people to increase the rating or to elevate it, what that might otherwise be minuscule. If Dark Lord just hit distribution, like immediately off the bat, and they made a lot of it, and you could just get it on the counter of any grocery store, it would probably get, I would say, an average of like 4 out of 5 on Untappd. It's a decent beer.
So Dark Lord, according to that article, is now putting out about 30,000 bottles of Dark Lord a year. So it's not really a rare beer anymore.
And
but you got to go there and be one of however many people who buy 4 bottles of pop.
But this, what you also notice is that it was number one, and it's steadily dropping down.
And then
is it even on the list now?
I think it is. According to this,
regular.
Well, I think I was talking about Beer Advocate.
The barrel aged one's on there. I don't even think regular's on there.
It's not on anymore on the Beer Advocate top 20.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I bet it is.
We can look it up later.
I could Google it, but you won't be happy if I Google it. But and then people start complaining about beers because they're not the same as they used to be, man. And now it's this, and now it's that, and
that's that experience.
That's that experience because you've already had it once or twice or 3 times, and now you feel you're really special if you've had this rare thing 3 times anyways. Yeah. And maybe 4-ounce pours. So now you've had like the equivalent maybe of a 12-ounce bottle over time. Yeah. And you think it's not the same as it used to be.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's like the beer literally has not changed.
It's really downhill now, man. Yeah. I heard they're putting it in second use barrels now.
Yeah.
And it used to be in first use barrel. I don't know. However nerds talk. And that's a psychological thing, maybe much as it is a.
I think our inherent definition of beer quality has changed, is what it is. There's more that factors into it. So whether you want to consider that as part of it, it's not part of the, the BJCP parameters, of how you score a beer. But I think that's what lends to the list that you see.
You need a barrel, and you need some wild yeast, or even more than kettle soured. You need to put it in a barrel that will sour it, or you need to just take that hop level up to a certain extreme, and then you don't see. The hoppy beers are not. They're there, but I mean, people still line up for Pliny the Younger, obviously in California, but now they do about a week every day. They line up to drink that.
Everything Treehouse.
Treehouse is the thing, and we're just talking. And what kills me, I mean, on one hand, you're talking about a beer. I get the price, and some of it because it sat in a barrel for 8 months, maybe, or 12 months, or whatever it is, and took. It's costing the brewer a lot of money to sit that beer and not sell it. And the other side, you're talking about a 12-ounce can of beer, man. Yeah. That is somehow people. I see some of the trade offers for Treehouse, and I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. Someone in Europe is going, I'll have Cantillon.
I have a friend that lives up there. He's like, you can sit it down. And I was like,
I'll send this for some Treehouse. Yeah. It's a can. It's a IPA in a can.
Yeah. It's a hoppy beer. Yeah. That you have to consume fresh, ideally too.
And it probably wasn't that expensive to make because it sells for like $4 a can or something.
No. Yeah.
Or like Heady Topper. Although people still hype a little bit over Heady. already. Not as much as they used to, maybe.
No, they've been making more of it.
They make a lot more of it now.
They make a lot more, and they've been making some other beers, so it's still great beer. It'll always be a great beer.
Yeah.
The last time I had it, I can't remember, but I can recall from previous batches it was still fantastic beer.
If I lived in
Hasn't
Vermont, I'm sure I would
changed.
drink it all the time.
Yeah, but people's perception of it changes once
That's right.
it starts to get mass produced. So, all right.
Well, we said a lot, maybe too much. No, what do you? So we're gonna all have a wonderful. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving because it's against. I'm from Paris, and we don't do that in France.
Paris,
but otherwise-
Kentucky. They do that there. Trust me.
But I'm also So, anyways, I guess have a happy Thanksgiving if you feel like it. If it's something you want to do. Hey man, do
Have
it.
a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Normally, when we celebrate Thanksgiving,
Or a
we
happy
go old
nothing.
school with we like the original foods they serve. So last year we had roasted swan.
Really?
Yeah, because that's.
Did you hunt your own swan?
Yeah, they eat state swan, and we should. I don't even know why.
Where do you get swan?
Well, we have like a creek in our backyard.
Almost did a spit take.
You got the crack. When they come up for the crackers, you just grab that neck and twist it.
Yak it.
Yeah. So, and also they drink beer.
The swans drink beer?
No, the pilgrims.
That's how you get them. You get the
Pilgrims.
swans to drink beer,
The
and then you
Pilgrims.
lure them into your house
The pilgrims were
with your velvety beard.
as far as I know, they were beer drinkers.
Yeah, I believe it.
So, have happy Thanksgiving and 93.9 FM, WLXU, Lexington, Kentucky.